what is syntax? The first two things that came up when I saw your syllabus, or the syllabus that was allocated to me, was syntax, and the definition and scope of syntax, which is like the first aspect of the entire module. But before going into syntax, I would like ourselves to have a clear idea of what branch does syntax belong to. I mean, where does syntax come from? What is the context of syntax? So I think since you are learning about syntax, you have already learned about in general whatever is English linguistics. I'm sure you have by now a fair idea of what linguistics is, and how the syntax is a part of that branch of knowledge called linguistics. But if you think we should go a little back and try to give you another review of the various branches of linguistics, and syntax being one, then we can do that as well. Any one of you can like unmute yourself and or send me a message in the chat box and ask me to like rewind or review or repeat anything that I would be saying, and not just this syntax question. Okay, so is there any doubts about the fact that syntax is a part of a larger phenomena? Syntax is a part of a larger aspect called linguistics. If there is any doubt, you can like raise your hands, or you can send a note in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask me. If you don't, I would assume that either you are already asleep, or there is no doubt regarding the fact that syntax falls under the larger category of linguistics. Also, let me know if I am not audible properly. Let me know if you face any kind of difficulty with my pronunciation or the way I speak. One of the things that I would like to mention at the early stage of our interaction is that my purpose, according to me, is to make you explain the concepts as clearly as possible. For that, if you think you need to understand a concept, or if you need a concept to be repeated in Bengali, I can try that. I mean, I also happen to know Bengali, so a little bit lesser than English, but I can try. Okay, so I mean, I'm short of vocabulary in English, because I am more of a Hindi speaking person than a Bengali speaking person, though I am Chakraborty and all. But that is a matter of discussion later. Okay, so Ishita has a question. I am confused that how many branches are there of linguistics, and of which branch syntax belong. It does not matter which branch the syntax belongs to, but actually linguistics has like these 5 branches, and I am noting them down in the chat box. I think that will help you out. So the first is phonology. I think you already have read about phonology, or you have these classes on phonology. And then there is morphology, and then there is our topic of discussion, syntax, and then there is semantics, and then there is graphology, which we do not study. Graphology, yes. Okay, so these Ishita, these are the 5 branches that I was talking about, and syntax is one of these 5 branches of linguistics. So without oh yeah, I was saying that you can ask me any questions related or unrelated to syntax. I fancy myself as a friendly person, an amicable person, a student friendly person, and in my class, no question is a stupid question. Like, if you do not understand something for the first time, I will try to explain it as many times as possible in order to make you understand the concept. Because, as I said, my purpose is not to not to you know show how much I know, but my purpose is to explain. My purpose is to make you understand, however possible, the concepts of whatever we are dealing with. So, to put you at a comfortable position, I would like to mention that syntax is something that we have been encountering, and we have already encountered in our lives, like from the very beginning of our training with English, with the very beginning of our training with languages. We have internalized, we have understood how the syntax works. So syntax is something that has been there, that is there, that will be there as long as there is language. So um, I would like to have volunteers from your end to tell me what is your understanding of syntax. You must have read, you must have like gone through the syllabus, or while you were going through the syllabus, you must have like um, seen you must have come across this word once or twice. So may I ask for volunteers to tell me what they think of what they think the syntax is under the broader category of linguistics. Can I have any volunteers who would? Okay, yes, I have Ishita Devnath, who says syntax is a verbal element of a sentence. Verbal element. Okay, so syntax could not be graphological. Syntax could not be non-verbal. Okay, that's something to start with. Syntax is a verbal element of a sentence. Okay, any more volunteers who would like to tell me what they think syntax is, or they think how syntax works, or whatever they have learned about syntax? Anything is welcome. And since we have, okay, Shomita Mukherjee says syntax is the order or arrangement of words to form proper sentences. Yes, that's more like it. So syntax could be understood to be the order or arrangement of words to form proper sentences. We will try to talk about each and every word that is mentioned as definition of syntax. And how would you pronounce your name? Is it Ongira Chakraborty? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. You can unmute and tell me if I'm pronouncing it right. Um,
Yes, sir.
Ongira. Okay, nice name, Ongira. Okay. So the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. Yes. So the rules that govern the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. So syntax is something which determines the rules, laws, regulations, norms of rearranging or arranging the words in a language so that they can convey a proper meaning, they can convey a grammatically appropriate meaning. I was confused when I started learning about syntax. I thought that syntax is nothing but grammar. But syntax and grammar have a crucial difference. Syntax talks more about the rules uh, with which we order, with which we arrange or rearrange the words in the language to get a proper or sometimes improper sentences, whereas grammar is the whole set of rules of a language, which also includes how words are formed, which falls under the larger category of morphology, or how narration is changed from direct to indirect, how active and passive voices interchange. Though syntax also talks about these things, but in a different way. In what different way, we will be discussing the same one by one. So, since our first topic of discussion is what is syntax, the definition of syntax, and its scope. So, the definition of syntax is as simple as whatever Ongira and Shomita already wrote down in the chat box, making it easier for me. And I am a lazy person, so I will not type the definitions, and I will make you type all the definitions, make you do all the work. So these definitions are very basic definitions of what a syntax is. So basically, we have been driving, say suppose we have been driving a car, or a scooter or a bike, but we did not know as to how the hydraulics work, as to what happens when we turn in the key, and how the ignition occurs. We might not be able to figure out how these things happen. We just know how to drive a car, or we just know how to drive a bike or a scooter, but we did not yet know as to why these things happen. We just know, say in Bengali. I assume most of us here are Bengali, and Bengali is a language, and also a language, and other than people. So we all know how to speak Bengali, but syntax is the branch of linguistics that that describe how or why we speak the way in which we speak. So syntax, English syntax, does the same for the English language. It tells us why it happens, whatever happens in our speech acts. Whenever we speak, we make a speech act, and syntax tells us that which rules govern our combination of sentences, our combination of words, while we are speaking. So I will not make you write down anything, not right now. I will not provide you with like dictations so that you can just write things down. It can be done very easily by me providing you with PDFs or typed notes, which you can use as your supporting documents to form your own answers. And I have been informed that the kind of pattern of questions that you have is 10 or 20. If that is correct, then we are dealing only with broad categories of questions. So the basic question that can come from syntax is that define syntax and define its scope. So by definition of syntax, you can write these things down. You can simply also write that syntax is also the study of these rules. So syntax is not only these rules, but also the study of these rules. So you can write like two paragraphs, or you can write like two sentences separately. On one hand, in the first sentence you can write whatever your friends have already typed in the chat box, but you can also add that syntax is also the study of the rules, study of the regulations or norms which determine, which give us the rules of combining the words that are there in the language. So say for example, I was using the metaphor of driving a car or a scooter or a bike. So usually what happens is that I ride a scooter. I mean, I'm a poor man and I do not have a car. I don't know how to drive a car, but I can ride a scooter. And what happens in a scooter is that the first thing that I do in order to ignite is to put the key in and then twist it to my and I'm dyslexic also, so I twist it to my left. Yeah, no, right, no, left. Yeah, okay. So I twist it to my left, and then I clutch the bike, but the scooter's brakes, the left brake, and I then switch. I touch the switch, and if I'm lucky, the scooter starts. Now, this is all very internalized inside my mind. I know it very well because I have been riding it for some time now. But when I pay attention to the fact that what are the steps involved in making my scooter start. Yes, Rupsha, you have something to say?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. So I thought you unmuted yourself. Okay, so all these steps are very common, very internalized. I do not have to think right or left before turning my key or starting the engine. But now when I'm talking about it, I am stopping to think that, okay, I cannot push on, I cannot touch, I cannot switch the scooter on just by starting by touching the starting switch, ignition switch, because I need to put the key in. Syntax similarly tells us that you need to put elements, appropriate elements, in appropriate order in order to write a sentence, in order to speak a sentence. So syntax is the rules, syntax is the order of the sentences, order of the elements in the sentence, and the rules that govern them. So we can say that syntax can be defined in three ways actually. First, the arrangement of words that exist in the language. Secondly, the rules that govern those arrangements. I do not have a third hand, so I'm using this hand to point out to the third option, and that is the third is the study of these rules. So I'll stop for you to formulate any questions. If I have confused you more than I was supposed to do, or if instead of like clearing things up, tell me if I have confused you by telling about these three ways in which, by telling you these three elements of the definition of syntax. Any confusion, any questions from this little definition part?
Sir, can you please repeat the three ways?
Yes, okay. First rule. No, it's not the rule. See, when we are sitting to define syntax, now answering both to the last question in the chat box, Trijit and Ria, I'm trying to answer both of you at the same time. So when you are writing that, I mean, everything boils down to how well you can express yourself in those 3 hours or 4 hours you have in your examination hall. But before that, you can like write down on your own where you are much relaxed. So when you start writing, the definition of syntax, then you can have these three things in your mind. Number one, syntax is the arrangement of words or sentences in English language. Number one, that's the first part of the definition. And you can give examples, always give examples, like when I say that syntax is the arrangement of words and other elements and sentences in English language which makes a proper sense, then you can say, for example, say I use a very basic sentence, I eat rice. Okay, so in I eat rice, you can say that I have to use the subject, I have to use the verb, I have to use the object in this particular order. So subject, verb and object, these are actually words. Of course, you have already identified which is the subject, which is the verb and which is the object. Very simply, I is the subject, eat is the verb and object is rice, right? So I eat rice are three words in English, and I am arranging them, I am putting them in an order. So I am getting a proper sense that I eat rice. So I eat something and I eat rice. I am doing the act of eating rice usually. But there are a number of other factors that are working while you are typing or while you are writing this sentence. So the first part of the definition of syntax would include that syntax is simply the arrangement of words in a sentence or arrangement of phrases and clauses or sentences in English language where from we can have a proper sense. For example, I eat rice. So it gives a sense, a proper sense, and it is an arrangement of words. You can also give an example of a phrase. Say for example, Sita, comma, who is a naughty girl, comma, lives next door. Sita, comma, who is a naughty girl, comma, lives next door. Now I did not use Ram is a good boy for obvious reasons, and I also made Sita a naughty girl. So Sita, who is a naughty girl? So who is a naughty girl is a clause. Lives and comma lives next door is a phrase. So here is another arrangement, not just of words now, but of phrases, just one phrase and clause. So there are phrase and clause both, and also a word called Sita. So you can give like two examples in the very first part of the definition. Is that clear, Ria? And am I making sense, Trijit? Let me know.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, all right. Just stop me whenever I start speaking nonsense, and whenever you lose me to something, maybe a text from your friends, or maybe your cat has jumped into your lap or something like that. Whenever that happens, we lose each other, and do stop me and ask me to repeat, ask me to say in a very different way so that you can understand. Okay, all right. So that's the first part. The second part is that syntax refers to the rules by which this arrangement is governed. Can anybody volunteer to tell me which rule am I talking about when I am saying that there is a rule according to which we have arranged the words in the sentence or arranged the clause and the phrase in the sentence? There is a particular rule in English language and under which we have to, yes, grammatical rules. You can say grammatical rules. It's a very simple thing. I mean, it's a very common thing. We all know it.
So
And we know it. Yes.
verb,
Yes. 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 Subject, verb, object.
object.
Yes, we have to put the subject and then the verb and then the object in non-interrogative sentences. We know this very well. and by this time, since you are PG1, since you're semester 1, by this time you are already well trained in grammatical English. You are well trained in writing answers of like huge lengths. So your grammar is already quite at par, and many of you are also engaged in teaching young kids for a little pocket money, which I used to do. So we have been learning and teaching grammar at the same time. So this rule tells us that in non-interrogative sentences we have to put the subject and then the verb and then the object, and there could be a number of things in between, but this is the basic sentence pattern of English language, which differs from Bengali or Hindi in a very remarkable way. The difference in Hindi and in Bengali or other non-English languages might be simply that we put the subject and then the object, and at the end we put the verb. Ami bhat khai. So bhat comes before verb. So that's the rule that governs the arrangement of words and sentences in Bengali language or Hindi language. So the rules, I mean, we are dealing with just one rule, that the subject should come before the verb and the verb should come before the object should come at the end, and the subject should be in the beginning of the non-interrogative sentences. But in an interrogative sentence also, actually the subject is missing, or the subject is interrogated. So the subject is usually also there in the beginning part of the sentence, but we usually think that no, in an interrogative sentence the verb pattern changes, which it hardly does, which we will discuss later. Now there is another rule which governs this little sentence, I eat rice. What other rule can someone of you find out and tell me what other rule is there without which this sentence might not work at all? There is another set of basic grammatical rules. Tense, yes, very good, very good. Yes, tense. So tense is another rule that governs which word I choose. I eat rice. Since I have chosen I before eat, I is first person singular, so I cannot write, I should not write, for the sake of appropriate grammar, I eats rice, right? Because in the tense that would mean that the subject should have been third person singular. He eats rice, she eats rice, okay? And also if I am saying that I ate rice, then I would be meaning that I ate rice at some point in time, I do not eat rice anymore, or I will not be eating rice any further, or I'm just making a statement that I had eaten rice at some point in time in the past. But this sentence is in the present tense, and for present tense I need to use the eat instead of ate. The same is true with rice. Rice is something that is generally understood to be uncountable. So we will not say I eat rices. I would say I eat rice. So there are so many rules involved in this simple sentence. One of the rules is that we need to put the subject and then the verb and then the object. Also we need to understand that with the first person pronoun, singular pronoun, we need to use the first form of the verb, that is eat. And rice is an uncountable noun, and here therefore we cannot use the plural form here with this sentence. Maybe sometimes we might get a sentence, we might get an example where all of these rules can be twisted if not broken. You can think about places where these rules might be broken, where we can use the plural form of rice, or where we can use in some way the eight form of the verb, or many other combinations and permutations. So imagine just within this span of 3 worded sentence, we have already applied all the rules that could be applied on this little sentence. Yet we were not aware, or we were not conscious of doing it when we were doing it. So these syntactical rules, these rules that are that make up the syntax, is somehow unconsciously embedded into our brain by the way of hearing the language being spoken, or by just simple intuition, which is a matter of another discussion which we will be having much later. But this is the second part of the definition, that they are, syntax is also the set of rules that will determine which words will be used for which sentences, or that will determine where we need to put one word in association with another word. Okay, so that can also be called a subject verb agreement. Other than tense, it could be a subject verb agreement. Other than subject verb agreement and tense, we also took into account the word rice, and we came to know that okay, rice is an uncountable noun. We should not use the plural form of an uncountable noun here. But if we replace rice with, say, singharas, I hope you are not hungry and you had your breakfast, because this is going to be a long class. So don't get, if you get hungry, like another rule in my class is that you can eat, because you will be on mute anyway. I won't be hearing or seeing you eat and drool over your food, but you can eat if you like, if you are tired and if you feel sleepy. Well, you can tell me that I'm feeling sleepy, you should do a dance number, or you should like sing a song to keep me awake, and I can try to do that. No, don't ask me to sing. I mean, that will be a horrible mistake. So but I'm just saying that I try to keep my classes very informal, yes, and a little, I try to add a little humor, and which I fail sometimes miserably, and if I'm lucky, people might smile, and smiling is also a way to wake up, to keep yourself awake. So when you are like feeling sleepy, you hardly smile or you hardly laugh. Anyway, so laughing rejigs your body a little. So coming back to the second part, we can understand that there are rules that govern the arrangement of the words. So on one hand, there are arrangement of words. On another hand, there are rules that govern the arrangement. Okay, there are existing arrangements of words, and then there are existing rules that govern that arrangement that we are habituated with seeing or habituated with understanding. The third is the study of all these things. So we are students of syntax, we are students of linguistics, we are students of literature actually, but we are also studying linguistics, and now we are studying syntax. So we are studying in syntax all the possible ways of arrangements of words, sentences, phrases, clauses in English language. We are also studying the rules that govern these arrangements. And the third part is more of a theoretical part, while the first two are more of a practical way of dealing with things. What you can do is you can write down this thing in a paragraph, and since syntax is more like a scientific thing, an objective thing, I do not think we need to write like pages after pages of definition of syntax. However, what you can do is you can take examples, take definitions from one or two books that I might prescribe you if you're interested, and then you can go to the definition part of that book, take the first paragraph or take the second paragraph wherever the definition of the syntax is given. You can paraphrase it, and you can turn the sentence into your own words, and you can cite the book or the author that you took your definition from. That according to Noam Chomsky, in his book Syntactic Structures, 1957, within brackets, syntax is the arrangement of words, phrases and clauses in a language, and also the study of the rules that govern them. Okay, so the study and the rules have been combined into a single sentence. Okay, so now is it clear, Ria, Trijit? Could I explain it? Could I repeat it well?
No, sir, very much clear.
Okay, great. Trijit, is your what was your question? Wait a minute. Yeah. Yes, repeat the first rule. So did you get the first rule also?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now let us go into the scope of syntax. Now from what I get from the syllabus that Shukla ma'am gave me, I could make out that we might be talking about two kinds of scopes. What are these two kinds of scopes? The first meaning of the scope could be, where can I apply syntax? Where can I apply these rules or this knowledge of the arrangement of words and sentences? So that can be one scope. But if I think again, then there is something called scope in syntax, which is a wholly different matter altogether, and we will try to talk about both of them. Sorry, I was feeling thirsty, and that is not a Maaza that I am drinking, it's just water. So it's in a Maaza bottle. Sorry. So scope of syntax in a very simple way is, what does syntax do? Syntax helps us to understand how and why the language works as it works. As I was saying that many of you might be giving tuitions to little kids, and you might be telling that the first person singular pronoun should always take the first form of the verb, and the little kid might, and the little kids are really very annoying sometimes, and he or she can ask, why is it so? Why can't I simply write like I eats rice? Because that's easy, because
Yes, sir, I face this problem too much.
yeah, I mean, I have a kid, and she's like 9, and she's a good kid, but she has like these millions of questions, and sometimes I am just like I cannot answer anymore, because you see, even when we were studying grammar, when we were like in our school and college, even in our universities as you're in now, we are just given a set of rules. rules. We are just told that this is how things work, and we have been reprimanded, we have been scolded so much when we were making these small mistakes. Say for example, I just used a construction regarding the scope of syntax. Like I was saying, there are two scopes of syntax. I think I used something like this, but I can't remember. I am forgetful. So the thing is, in Bengali we say, if I can say this sentence in Bengali, then I will say সিনট্যাক্সের দুটো স্কোপ আছে। সিনট্যাক্সের দুটো স্কোপ আছে। But in English we have to say syntax has two scopes. Now herein comes this area of confusion. Why add an s? Because we are already saying two. But that is how English works, and Bengali might be more scientific than English in this case, because when we are already saying two, why are we adding an s which signifies plural sense? Makes no sense. But well, English is English and Bengali is Bengali, and we have to teach our kids, we have to teach ourselves first that this is how it happens. But I hope syntax or studying syntax will teach you, will make you understand the inner mechanics of the language. Like what happens when you turn the key? Why do you have to turn the key in left? Why not right? What happens when you turn it right? And what happens when you try to switch on your scooter without turning the key in? Syntax, the scope of syntax, first and foremost, is to make you understand how and why things work as they are. And when we will go into the noun phrase and verb group and basic sentence patterns, then I hope you will understand as to why it is so. I think you have already learned, you have already talked about or heard in your phonology classes that the pronunciations of the words are very different than what we Bengali or what we Indians are used to pronouncing. I mean, there was this joke or there was this scene in some movie. I think it was a very old movie. Chupke Chupke, I think, like the Chupke Chupke of Dharmendra and Om Prakash, where Dharmendra used to play the role of a driver, but he was a professor, something like this. And the main thing is that Om Prakash was trying to teach Dharmendra English to refine him. And Dharmendra asked very elemental, very basic questions like, अगर TO2 होता है तो GO नो ऐसा क्यों नहीं होता, GO go क्यों होता है, TO2 तो GO भी तो वैसा ही होना चाहिए. And Om Prakash had no answer for that. But phonology, I think, have already told you that in BRP, in British Received Pronunciation, TO and GO doesn't really exist. We don't, I mean, in English people will not say to or go. They would say to, go, something like that. But the same thing occurs in our English syntax too. When we will be dealing with the basic verb patterns, which are like 34 or 37, you will know the exact positions as to where one word has to be put, and what happens if you do not put that word at that particular point for that sentence. and what wrong happens. And also we need and it is syntax which teaches us that grammar is very contextual. Grammar or syntax itself is very contextual. You have to understand in which context a particular sentence, a particular word arrangement is mentioned, or in what particular context are we using a particular arrangement of words. As the context changes, so does usually the syntax doesn't change, but context often drives the syntax. However, if we go back into the definition of syntax, which I am sure I will be able to give you some rough notes with which you can work. So actually syntax comes from this Greek word. I think all of the English word has come from Greek words. So it means putting together or ordering, keeping things in order, putting things in the right way in which they should be, or in which they should make sense. And some early aspects of syntactic teachers or syntax teachers often found that the syntax is something that actually drives the meaning, not the other way around. Your knowledge of grammar, your knowledge of syntax, I'm sorry, I'm using it like interchangeably, which I should not. Your knowledge of syntax determines your knowledge of the meaning, and not the other way around. Because if you use the wrong arrangement, if you use the wrong form of the arrangement, then you will not be able to convey the right meaning. However, it was a very old and very orthodox way of looking at things. So I think the modern version, the modern aspect of the realization about syntax is more correct, where we have understood that it is the context, it is the meaning which actually helps us to construct our sentences. And the scope of syntax also tells us to understand the contexts as well. Say for example, I will try to use two sentences. Really, comma, I am in love with her. Really, comma, I am in love with her. And I am in love with her, comma, really? You see, just by changing the components, just by changing the position of the words, without touching the components themselves, without changing the words in the sentence, I think I have been able to bring out a basic difference between the two sentences. I will repeat. Really, comma, I am in love with her, full stop. I am in love with her, comma, really? Question mark. So can someone of you who have not been answering, Onjira, Trijit and Ria had been answering me, can someone else other than the people who are more active answer me so that I can understand that you have not fallen asleep? Or should I, like, it might happen from the next class onwards, like I can see a number of names here and I can like ask someone to unmute and answer. I know you won't like it very much, but that's another way of ensuring that you're listening to me and you are not playing video games or not chatting with your friends. Any volunteers other than Ongira or Ria or Trijit? You can even chat, you can even send your response in the chat box. My question is this, that did you understand the difference between these two sentences? If you did understand, then this is you also understand the scope of syntax. I made a syntactical change. I made a change in the arrangement of the words. I put really in the first sentence, I put really in the very beginning of the sentence, and then I shifted really to the end of the sentence. Now the syntax makes the context clear. I think it makes the context clear. Can I ask you, like, can I take names and ask you to tell me, or is that not done, or is that like too embarrassing or something? Let me know if this is not really cool. You can like uh, send a text in the chat box and say no, we do not want you to call names and ask for answers. uh, Otherwise I will not know if you are really listening to me. So okay, Ankita, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank God someone is not sleeping. I'm sorry for this boring lecture, but nothing to do. So Ankita, can you tell me the difference of meaning of context in these two sentences?
The last one, which I have just said, really, I am in love with her.
Yeah, these two sentences. What is the difference between these two sentences?
Yes. First of all, really, when we are putting comma after really, I am in love with her.
Hmm.
Uh, it is a sentence which is spoken by me only. Really, I am in love with her. But whenever we transfer really, whenever we put the words quote unquote, I am in love with her, really, then
Hmm.
it may sounds as a question or be sure. Um, Someone is getting, oh, really? Is it true? Or it's beautiful then. So that is the difference between this.
Yes, that's very clear. That's very clearly put, Ankita. And Rupsha also says that the first one confirms that this person, whoever says that he really loves her, and the second one is giving him some kind of confusion. Is there any other context that comes out? And yeah, we see this in Bengali also. I mean, that is the scope of syntax. That is the scope of ambiguity that I was talking about. And Trijit says the first difference is the word really interchanged its place and raised the question for the readers. And the second difference is the syntax changed from a normal sentence to an interrogative sentence. Very well, very good, Trijit. Thanks for that. So, grammatically, meaning wise, so many changes happened only because I changed a few things. Now that is the scope of syntax. So by grammar, by syntax, by a sentence, by the arrangement of words in a particular way, I or someone else can show a change of context, can show a change of meaning. So in the first sentence, somebody is confirming that somebody loves somebody. Okay? But in the second sentence, there is a opportunity for questions that uh, I love her. Really? Like somebody told me that somebody told him or her that I love somebody. And I am not sure who, I mean, this can be a kind of a rumor that I am in love with someone. And I would say, really? I don't know. I mean, that is also a way of denying. Okay? A question with confusion. Yes. And also, it happens in certain cases where a person is like, it used to happen in these 90s movies where the hero and the heroine used to fight with each other in the beginning, and from there on they would fall in love with each other, and the realization will be like gradual, and then the person would say, am I really in love with that person? Like, when did that happen? So this really, with a question mark, can make all these changes as far as the scope of the syntax is concerned. So that brings us to the end of the definition and the scope, but we need to speak about the various elements of the syntax. If we need to write a broad answer, if we need to write a broad and comprehensive response to a question of what is syntax, definition of define syntax and define its scope. So the scope and the definition might be interrelated. So when we are trying to write down the next paragraph or the next section of the answer, we can say that syntax comprises of parts of speech, and then we can go on to defining the parts of speech, whatever 8 parts of speech there are. We can also say that syntax contains phrases and clauses and different kinds of sentences. And then we will go into the description of the phrases. What is a phrase? How many types of phrases are there? What is a clause? How many different types of clauses are there? What is a sentence? How many different types of sentences are there? And by the end of all of this, you will see that you have written a 5-page long answer, and the examiner might be very happy. Oh wow, you have written such a long answer. And we had this notion that the longer we write, the lengthier we write, the more marks we get. No, not in syntax, not in linguistics. Okay, you have to be pinpointed. But you can mention that when we are trying to define syntax, we should also try to talk about the various elements that are there in syntax. So syntax comprises of discussions, syntax comprises of definitions of these elements as well, because without a discussion of noun, pronoun and other parts of speech and phrases, noun phrase, verb phrase and all of these things, the definition of syntax will not be complete. As far as the other kind of scope of syntax is concerned, which I am not sure if it is a part of your curricula, but I will just touch upon it, and I will make sure, you can make sure that whether it's a part of your syllabus or whether I'm like transgressing the boundary of the syllabus. There is a scope of ambiguity, there is a scope of confusion, as this sentence, as these two sentences that I mentioned created, and syntax also deals with that. So there is a whole chapter called scope in syntax. So the scope actually means the scope of ambiguity or the scope of confusion or the scope of general mistakes. I will give you a small example. I'll give you a sentence. Let me try to write this sentence down, and I would like give a shout out to Orchok Gorai. Am I pronouncing it right, Orchok? Orchok, are you there? Orchok does not want to speak to me. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, your name. Yeah, okay, you say yes. Okay, so I'm just trying to a shout out to Orchok, because he quite honestly said that do it from the next class, because we were not ready, maybe we are not comfortable with you right now, and when you start calling names, it creates a little um, flutter in the ranks, which is not a. I won't be very invasive of your privacy, but say for imagine this is a real class, like imagine this is an offline class and I can like point to a particular person who is like bending his head and typing in the mobile to answer something. So it's not do not consider it to be an offensive thing from my end. It's just I want you to be more participative in the whole learning process. Okay, so I was trying to type a sentence, right? And what was I trying to type? What sentence was I going to talk about regarding the scope of syntax? Wait, I just forgot. So this you will be seeing this more often because I am forgetting things. um, I was talking about the scope of syntax and the whole chapter on scope of syntax, and there is ambiguity. There is a scope of ambiguity. A single sentence can be interpreted in so many ways. I think I was talking about that, but I was going to give you an example of the same, and I forgot. Let's talk about something else while this thing comes back to my mind of what I was trying to say. Uh, okay, I'll give you a small example. Yeah, I remembered. Um, okay, I'm typing it out. Hmm. This is the sentence that I was talking about, which gives an example, which gives us a taste of what scope is in syntax, the scope of ambiguity, the scope of error, the scope of confusion. Orchok says, I really wanted to speak, but today I'm not ready. Oh, okay, so you have a stuffed nose. Okay, sorry for that. I mean, see, I want it to be very informal. I want it to be very, friendly and interactive, and that's why I would be like doing this. No, no issues, no sorries, Orchok. So, can you all see the sentence that I typed in the chat box? The quality of the mangoes are not good. First, you need to tell me in the chat box itself, if you please, is the sentence syntactically correct? If you find any errors, you can tell me, like you can type it in the chat box, or you can unmute and tell me that whether the sentence is right or wrong.
স্যার আমার মনে হয় এখানে দাটা হবে না, দ্য কোয়ালিটি অফ ম্যাঙ্গোজ আর নট গুড এটা হবে, বিকজ দা একটা ডিফাইন মানে ডিফিনিট একটা পার্টিকুলার থিংসকে আমরা ডিফাইন করি, দ্য বয় অর
ওকে,
দ্য গার্ল।
তো তুমি বলছো দ্য কোয়ালিটি অফ ম্যাঙ্গোজ আর নট গুড হবে।
ইয়েস স্যার, আই থিঙ্ক সো।
Okay. That's one scope. That's one uh, aspect of the scope of syntax. So অঙ্গিরার মনে হচ্ছে যে এই দটা এখানে যেটা আছে সেটা হবে না, ম্যাঙ্গোজের আগে দটা হবে না, না হলে ঠিক আছে। And anyone else?
So should we put the mangoes first? Like the mangoes are not good in quality, like in that way.
Mangoes are not good in quality. Yeah, that will change a number of things, but what I want you to tell me is that is this sentence syntactically correct or not?
স্যার
Yes.
I think another thing that is mangoes is hobe, because there is the quality, the subject is the quality, so the subject is not the mangoes, তো এখানে আর হবে না, কারণ এখানে আমরা কোয়ালিটিটাকে সাবজেক্ট করছি, তো এটা সিঙ্গুলার হবে।
Yes, that is what I was trying to show to you. that the subject of the sentence is quality, not the mangoes. So the subject should agree with the verb, or the verb should agree with the subject, and the quality is singular, and hence the verb should also be singular. Trijit writes, no ambiguity in the sentence because it's a clear statement that the quality of mangoes is not good. Well, before Ongira pointed out that the quality of the mangoes is not good should be the correct sentence. Before that, there was some ambiguity, there was some point of error, there was some confusion. But as soon as we pointed out that the quality of the mangoes is not good, then we have a slightly clear sentence. Okay, what if, just what if, I mean, I'm sure that many of you have watched the What If of Marvel. I'm just typing out another way in which the sentence could have been written. Of the mangoes is not good. Okay, now see this sentence which I just typed out. The quality of the mangoes is not good. What is wrong with this sentence? I mean,
Sir,
yeah.
there is a gap between the no, no, gap between man and goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So,
So
what
there will be a
happens?
comma.
The quality of the man, comma, goes is not good.
Sir, goes and is simultaneously বসতে পারে না.
Okay. Anything else that is wrong with this sentence? Anything else that can be corrected?
Sir, if we talk about the fruit mango, then there is a gap man and goes. But
Mm-hmm.
if we talk about a man,
Hmm.
the quality of a man,
Hmm.
then we particularly define that man, that one man about whom we are talking. Then the quality of the man is not good. It can be right, but goes is not, will be not there.
Right. So you see, just because I mistakenly, or now in this case deliberately, put a space between man and goes, the entire structure of the sentence falls apart. There are so many mistakes, there are so many problems. Okay, so that is what syntax teaches you, that this particular word order does not look good, does not look proper. And now we know, thanks to syntax, now we know that there is a rule that governs these arrangement of the words, because morphologically speaking, man and goes both are proper words, but their arrangement in this sentence is not proper, and in fact either we need to remove the space between man and goes, or we need to say the quality of the man, goes is deleted, is not good. So the quality of the man is not good. The man is not qualified, or the man is a bad person or something like that. So this is the scope of syntax, which in which I will not dwell too much, because I think the syllabus simply asked me to talk about the scope of syntax in general, like the scope of syntax which tells us to be tells us what we can do with syntax, rather than the actual chapter in some books about syntax, where we will be dealing with scope in a great detail. Okay, So I will go into the second part of the module, that is the basic structure of modern English, and the noun phrase and the verb group and the basic sentence patterns. But before that, do you want to take a break, or do you want to continue and then we can like continue, or we can take a break for say 5 minutes if you want that. Yes, no, break. Whoever wants a break, say yes in the chat box. Whoever wants a break. Oh, no. Oh, okay. Horchak wants a break. He's very honest. What about you guys? No one else? Okay. Horchak, I'm sorry, but it's just you who wants a break. I mean, I am enjoying this class very much and I do not want to take a break, but if it is becoming too heavy for you, then you can take a break. Orchuk, you can take a break and come back in 5 minutes. I won't be saying too much, and you can always catch up if you're not feeling well, or if you need to take a quick snack. And as I said, since you're on mute, you can eat, you can do whatever you want, like not do whatever you want, like do something else which refreshes you, like you can put your headphones in and you can take a walk around the house and listen to me. I'm stuck in this chair because I'm talking from a desktop. I cannot go and take a walk. Anyway, so it's just Orchok who wanted to take a break, and I guess no one else among you wants to take a break, so I'll continue, okay? And Orchok, as I said, you can totally take a break and you can come back. No problem. You won't miss too many things. So let's also try to understand if you have any questions, any doubts from the definition and the scope part, and the components of the definition, and that the fact that the definition will also include the various elements or the various components of syntax, because we have to talk about the parts of speech, we have to talk about the phrases, we have to talk about the clauses, we have to talk about the various kinds of sentences. Also, let me know if you have any confusion about the parts of speech, if you have any confusion about what is a phrase, what is a clause, what are the various kinds of phrases, what are the various kinds of clauses, because we will be discussing them anyway in our next section. So if you have any doubts regarding these basic concepts, you can tell me and we can talk about it, because as I said, no question is stupid. And two scopes, okay, all right. So the first scope is the literal one. The literal one is what can we do with syntax, that is the scope. কি হবে সিনট্যাক্সটা পড়ে আমাদের কি লাভ, আমরা কি বড়লোক হয়ে যাব, না আমাদের ক্যাটরিনা আর ভিকি কৌশলের ভিডিওটা ফ্রিতে দেখতে পাবো, কি হবে সিনট্যাক্সটা পড়ে? So I was saying this is one of the basic scopes of syntax. Like, you will understand why and how both the sentences or the language works as they do. কেন করে এটা বুঝতে পারবে। দ্বিতীয়ত হচ্ছে from the syntactical structures, from the sentences, from the arrangement of words, you would learn hopefully as to how to make out a context. লেখা দেখে, ওয়ার্ডস এর অ্যারেঞ্জমেন্ট দেখে, ওরা কোন রুলটা ফলো করেছে সেটা দেখে আমরা বুঝে যাব যে সেন্টেন্সটা কি বলতে চাইছে। and that is at the core of literature, that is at the core of all language learning and acquisition. আর আরেকটা যে স্কোপের কথা, আরেকটা যে স্কোপ রয়েছে, another scope which is more technical, is that there is a chapter within the books of syntax, like say syntactic structures, where they talk about ambiguity, where they talk about confusion, where they talk about error analysis. And the error analysis is also covered under this scope of syntax. Many of you are already either preparing or will prepare for your WBCS and other kinds of examinations, because all of you are not going to stay in the vocation of teaching and literary studies. There you might find this knowledge that we might gain of syntax very useful to delete, to find out, to understand the errors that we make while writing English. So these are the 2 points about the scopes that I was talking about. Is that clear, Ongira?
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now if you have not already fallen asleep, then you can listen to me continuously. Just tell me when you are feeling too much bored. Okay, I know you are bored, but tell me when you cannot take me anymore. I will give you a break, or I will, I don't know, maybe I'll show you a part of a movie or something to help you, refresh, and so that you can learn better. Just tell me whatever is happening with you, okay? Because you are advanced students. Oh, thank you. That's news to me, Shomita, because whenever I start these classes, people don't leave. They are very polite to me, but sometimes later I hear snores if somebody by mistakenly unmutes themselves, and literally I heard a person snoring because that poor fellow had fallen asleep, and that is very okay. I mean, we are all tired. I am tired too, but it's okay, no problem. I mean, if you feel sleepy, okay. If you feel hungry, okay. Just let me know when to stop, when to try to entertain you, and not just give you a droning lecture and go on and on. Yes. You had fallen asleep, Zufesha Neaz, sometimes. Okay, that's cool, no problem. Sleep is okay. Sleep will actually help you, memorize or recall all of whatever we are discussing right now. Okay, all right, enough of small talk. Let's go to the next section of the assignment of the module. That is the structure of modern English, right? The structure of modern English language. Before trying to speak about the structure of the modern English language, we need to appreciate the fact that there must have been something that was not modern, that was medieval or old, ancient. So as far as I have seen or heard, or not heard, seen and read, medieval English, which I think you have already are either already started to study or will study about Chaucer and Langland and Gower and all that. So other than basic words that were different because they used V instead of U or something like that, I do not find much difference in the syntactical structures as such, because syntax is a branch of linguistics that talk about elements that are broader, that are bigger than words. It is morphology which talks about words. But as far as the Elizabethan English is concerned, you had your Shakespeare and you have read enough of Shakespeare or Christopher Marlowe. There are constructions which are very different from what we were learning before, like double negatives and double superlatives in Shakespearean English, and if you have done your language history, you have also studied about the contribution of Shakespeare in English, or to English language, or to English literature. Uh, but we are concerned with the structure of the modern English language, and we will try to understand what is the noun phrase. We will try to understand what is the verb group, and we will try to understand the basic sentence structures, the basic sentence pattern. Now, I was giving you a hint that there are actually 34 to 37 verb patterns. So what are these verb patterns? What are these sentence patterns? How and why are we arranging these sentences in these structures? But before that, we need to clear a few things out. There are two words, there are two acronyms that you have in your syllabus right now, and one of them is the NP. What is the NP? Can somebody tell me what is the NP? It's easy.
It's a noun phrase.
Yes, very good, Ishita and Ongira. It is the noun phrase. And then if I ask you what is a phrase, then can somebody tell me what a phrase is? Somebody can type in the chat as well if he or she feels a little shy. So from next class onwards, I will be calling names. Okay, is that okay with everyone, or will you feel like a breach of privacy when I start calling names? Yeah, Orchak is okay. I think by next week your condition will improve. But yeah, what is a phrase? I mean, like the basic definition of phrase, like whatever you understand about phrase.
Sir, a group of words that clear a concept.
A group of words that clear a concept.
They stand together and clear a concept.
They stand together and clear a concept. Okay, and someone else was also trying to speak while Ria was speaking. Who was that? I mean, you can speak again. Was someone else? Okay, Shomita. Yes, yes. একই জিনিসই বলতে। ওকে, তার মানে ঠিকই হচ্ছে জিনিসটা। যদি দুজন তিনজন বা তার থেকে বেশি লোকে একই কথা বলে, তার মানে সাধারণত সেটা কথাটা ঠিকই হয় আর কি। Okay, but Ongira has put up a small group of words standing together as a conceptual unit, typically forming a component of a clause. Ore baba, Ongira, you're very technically sound, and this is a very technically correct definition of the phrase. So a small group of words. So there is a precondition to something being a phrase. It has to be small. It cannot be as big as my belly is. Like, I am a pot-bellied person, and I hope you cannot see my belly. And when I meet you in person, I hope soon you will laugh at my rotundness. You will laugh at my being fat and all. So it has to be small, not big. By big and small, I mean short and lengthy. So there will be a short group of words, few words, 2 or 3 words, 4 maybe maximum, and they stand together. They are together as a conceptual unit, a unit of a concept. It could be defining anything, it could be about anything, and it typically forms a part of a clause or a sentence. I mean, not just a clause but also a sentence. A phrase can be a part of sentence as well. Anything else about phrase? Anyone else who wants to speak something that these definitions might miss out? Who has not spoken yet, who wants to join in the party? There is when we are talking about concepts, when we are talking about conceptual components, there is something very vital that we are missing right now from here. Can somebody point that out? Okay, Shomita has something. Is a grammatical term referring to a group of words that does not include a subject and a verb. So if I say this phrase, I hope it is a phrase, leave it. If I say leave it, then Shomita, do you think I am not using a verb here?
Sir,
Yes.
to express in words or in appropriate or telling terms.
Mm-hmm. So you are defining the phrase.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you repeat what you said?
Sir, to express in words or in appropriates, just like
In
telling telling terms.
So phrase is expressing your thoughts. Yes, I mean, of course, with phrase you will express your thoughts, but a phrase a phrase can have a subject, a phrase can have a verb, but a phrase does not give you an entire meaning. Imagine there are three uh, siblings. There are three brothers or sisters in a family. The eldest is the sentence. She is the most accomplished. She gives all the answers correctly. She does housework. She's mature. She is also working maybe. So she is the complete package. The sentence is. So the first sister is sentence, complete sense. She makes sense of whatever she says and whatever she does, and she is mature and she is responsible. So that's the sentence. So what is a sentence? Sentence is a group of words that gives us a complete sense. However, this complete sense, this phrase complete sense is itself debatable. Okay, but let's, for the sake of our convenience, for the sake of our understanding, we keep it to the very basic level of saying that a sentence gives us a complete sense in a particular context. The second daughter or the second sister is Claus. She reads in a school, in a high school, and she is also doing a lot of stuff, but she does not work, not yet. She sometimes makes some silly mistakes. She is not a complete package yet. She will be soon, but not yet. And by now you have already guessed who will be the youngest sister. The phrase gives like kind of half of the meaning of what sentence could do. So if sentence could say do a very complex activity of say negotiating the house rent with the landlord, phrase could only say that she will not give any rent to the landlord, or not the rent that the landlord asks. So in a family, the eldest is, I mean, just for the sake of the argument, accept it. The eldest is the most responsible, the most full of sense. The middle one, the middle sister, Claus, is almost there, but still she lacks some responsibilities, she lacks some sense. And phrase is only like a half of the thing. She cannot articulate everything very properly. Maybe she is a toddler, she's just a child, she's just a kid. So sentence, clause and phrase live in this kind of a relationship, where the sentence is a group of words which gives us a complete sense, clause is a group of words which gives us a limited sense, and phrase is a group of words that give us only half of the sense which a general sentence gives. For example, if I start from the phrase, I say leave it, and all of you would be very happy to leave the meeting, but I did not request you to leave the meeting. I said leave it. Only half of the meaning is conveyed. You would think, leave what? Leave who? But leave who will not be there because I am saying leave it. But then, even within leave it, I could say we were debating about something, and I humbly mentioned that you should leave it out of consideration. And this particular phrase, leave it, which does have a verb and an object, it, makes just half of the sense. You do not know whether I am asking you to leave the meeting, which I am not. I am not asking you to leave your cat which you are petting at this point in time, or I am not asking you to leave the mobile that you have in your hand and maybe watching Instagram reels. I'm not asking you to leave anything like that, but what am I asking you to leave? So leave it, what does it actually mean? If we use the same leave it construction, these two words, into a clause, leave it alone, leave it alone, the adding of another word might give you some more meaning. So it could be understood to be a very short clause, leave it alone, and you can say or if I want to use a proper clause, I would say that should be left alone, or that should be left alone. Okay, let's take this clause, that should be left alone. So in this case, clause gives you more meaning, like almost 90% of the meaning, that it should be left alone. So something should be left alone, something should not be interfered with. But if we say leave the cat alone, so now I have the subject, the cat, and I have the verb, and I have, the cat is not the subject, the cat is the object, but I am asking you to leave the cat alone, and I also have alone, I also have an adjective. Okay, so in this construction, in this way, phrase, clause and sentence gradually become lengthier, gradually become full of more meaning. So noun phrase, as I was using this word, noun phrase, is simply a phrase that works as somebody pointed out, a conceptual unit. Noun phrase is just a phrase that works like a noun, which begins with a noun. Similarly, verb phrase, in this case leave it, is a verb phrase which begins with a verb. So simply, a noun phrase will be a phrase that makes only half of the sense to that of a sentence. It might have a subject and a verb, it might have a verb and a subject, it might in some cases not have a verb, but it should have at least a subject or an object. But usually what happens is that in verb phrases we will have the verb, but in noun phrases, say for example, my uncle. My uncle is a phrase, and it's a noun phrase. Though it begins with a pronoun, it is a noun phrase. So a noun phrase will typically begin with a noun or a pronoun, and it will do the function of a noun. So we need to understand what is the function of a noun, and it's very simple, that a noun names person, place, animal, thing, or emotions, or things like that. So there are like common noun, proper noun, abstract noun, material noun, and so on and so forth. So the phrase will exactly do the same thing: name a person, animal, thing, emotion, or something else. Say for example, happy for you. We just write this sentence sometimes when somebody is doing something good. We would say happy for you. Okay. In this case, however, happy is in this particular sentence, happy could be used both as an adjective and as a noun. Noun because it's an abstract noun. Happiness, happy. Okay. And also if we try to be more proper with the noun, then we can say happiness is bliss, like ignorance is bliss. This is a phrase which has a subject in the form of an abstract noun, and also a verb, and in this case, in a rare case, it also has a complement, if not an object. Now all these categories of complement, object, noun, and these subcategories, we can find them out really clearly from any grammar book. And you can go for like Ray Martin, P.K. Desarkar, or P.C. Dash, or T. Konar, whatever grammar book you can get hold of. Just go for it and try to rejig your memory about your these word particles, these parts of speech, these phrases and clauses. Okay. So noun phrase. Now the noun phrase that we are going to see or we are going to use will look a little different than when we were writing noun phrases. City of joy. So city is a noun, and of joy, city of joy, is a phrase, and it's a noun phrase because it uses it does the function of a noun, of a proper noun, that is Kolkata. We all know that Kolkata is known as the city of joy. So here is the example, or here is noun phrase. Did you find any difficulty in understanding what this noun phrase is? If you can, if you find any difficulty, if you did not understand, you can always check back. Oh, okay, it's
No,
clear.
sir.
Okay, Zufeshan, your name is fantastic. What does it mean?
My name meaning is giving lighting.
Okay, so you give light.
Yes.
Zufeshan. Okay. All right. So if it is not clear, you can like tell me to repeat, or tell me to speak more about it. Or if it is clear, then it's very satisfying for me as well. You see, Shomita has typed in a sentence, and there is a scope of ambiguity over there. No sir, comma, it's clear. So she was responding to me if it was clear, and she said no sir. If I do not see its clear part, then I will be saying, oh, it was not clear, I will make it clear once more. I'll speak again. So Shomita does not want me to speak more, and even if she has any confusion, she would say, no sir, it's clear. I mean, like, don't speak further on this issue. But jokes apart, whenever you find it difficult for you to understand. If your concentration has wandered to something more interesting than my lecture, which is an obvious thing, then you can stop me and ask me to explain once more, because these classes will be more about explaining than about taking notes, or than about me talking about the history of syntax or something like that, which I do not want to talk about, which you can find very easily in Google and in the books that I will prescribe to you. So yeah, welcome Zufishan. So next category is the verb group, VG. Verb group. We all know what a verb is. Verb is a part of speech that denotes any action. Verbs are of various types: active and passive voice, transitive, intransitive, main and subordinate, main and auxiliary, and so on and so forth. So verb group, what is a verb group? Traditionally, syntacticians use a particular structure called the tree structure. Let me try to use the Jamboard and let me try to give you an example. I am sure that you already know what a tree structure is, but I will try to give you an example through the whiteboard, and I will share the screen so that you can understand it. Sorry, my pop-up is blocked. Why is my pop-up blocked? Okay, so I am starting the Jamboard. I am starting the whiteboard where from I will share the screen and you might be able to see what am I doing. Give me some time. Share, no, it will not be shared from here. Sorry. It has to be shared from here. Okay. A tab and this. Okay. Guys, can you see the Jamboard? Like a white space?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
cool. Okay, so the tree structure that I am talking about, I will use a very simple sentence. I eat, this is E, rice. Okay, sorry for the bad handwriting, but this is the sentence that I want to show the verb group. Okay, so the syntacticians will try to divide, or will try to show this sentence in this format. Okay, they will write something called S, which means sentence. Okay, and then they might make these two branches, like tree branches, like roots. Then they will make something like this. Sorry. Okay. Now they will put the I here and the eat rice here. Okay, and then there will be further structures. So this will be verb and this will be noun. Okay, so a verb group actually comprises, or a verb group could be termed as the predicate. So a verb group could also be known as a predicate. Okay. I really enjoy making these scribbles, so I'm like, instead of typing, I wrote it. So predicate, initially or earlier we used to know something called the predicate. Now the predicate can now be understood as the verb group, because what was the predicate? The predicate was that part of the sentence which contained the verb and other parts of it, the verb and the object. Okay. Now the same function is carried out by VG, that is the verb group. Now the verb group contains the verb and other parts of the sentence, which can contain again another noun. Okay, a verb and a noun. Alright, so this is the very simple tree structure, and these structures will get on more involved and more complicated as we practice, as we go forward. Okay, so this is the verb group, and now we will come to the structures, as to how many structures are there in English language. And for that I will try to share I will stop sharing. I will try to share with you a book, and I will try to provide you with the instances from that book, so that you can understand what these grammatical or what these verb structures actually are, what are the basic verb structures, and then we will go back into this making of these tree structures. Okay, all right. So as I was saying, just give me a moment to bring that book up. Okay, there it is. All right. So if you do find this book called, I don't know if you can see this book. Can you see the book? I see it inverted.
Yes, sir.
And that is a very common book, I guess. Renan Martin, composition, English grammar and composition. And yes, great. And on this page 267, I think, in my edition of the book, we have something called the verb patterns. Okay. Now the structures that you are supposed to learn are nothing but these verb patterns. The simplest verb pattern is subject plus verb. Birds fly. Right? The first structure that we all know, that we all might be learning, is verb plus subject plus verb. Birds fly. Always give examples. Okay. Second is subject plus verb plus subject complement. Subject plus verb plus subject complement. Birds fly high. Okay. So suppose, or let me give you another example from the book itself. This is a pen. This is a pen. So in this sentence, this is the subject, which is actually the pen, and hence it is a complement. So complement, complement, not I, which many of the ladies might be getting, but complement. Complement, the word complement actually signifies something that is added to, something that is extra, something that is something that is usually used with that particular thing. When something is said to be in complementary relationship, which I think you have already heard this term in your phonology classes, then they are then one comes when another comes, then one is used with another. Like I have been using automobile metaphors, so car needs petrol, or the scooter needs petrol. In the same way, this is a pen. So this is the subject, is the verb, and a pen is the subject complement. Something about the subject. Okay? And then subject plus verb plus direct object. Now, subject plus verb is clear. Now, what is the direct object? Can anybody tell me what a direct object is? And I know there's just 5 minutes left, and I will stop this torture soon. But before that, let's only stop at pattern 3, and let's just talk about the direct object. Can anybody tell me what is a direct object, and in relationship to that, can somebody tell me what is an indirect object? I know you guys are tired, but just for 5 minutes. Oh, yeah, Zufishan, you unmuted.
A noun, pronoun, or noun phrases which indicates the person.
Can you give an example? Any example that has a direct object? Can somebody help Zufishan?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, when we ask what or whom to a verb, we get the answer that is object. So I think if we ask a verb what, then what is the answer? That is the direct object.
So, and then what is the indirect object?
Whom?
Say suppose I'm like putting two sentences here, like I'm talking about two sentences. Okay, just sentences. Okay, John kicked the ball. Okay, John kicked the ball. Can you tell me whether the ball is the direct object or the indirect object?
It's a direct object.
Direct. Very correct. Very correct. Very correct. Now, if I say, yes, show me the correct. If I say, John gave the ball to Johnny. John gave the ball to Johnny. First of all, tell me, yes.
Sir,
Amrita.
then the ball will be the direct object and Johnny will be the indirect object.
Yes. So you know what a direct and indirect object is, right? All of you know. But I'm just telling you what is a direct object and what is an indirect object. So direct object is something on which the action done by the subject falls directly. So when John kicked the ball, so the ball went from one position to another. If the ball was not made of iron, sorry. In that case, John would have been like ended up breaking his own leg. But in a simple scenario, I'm a maniac, and I always think of pranking people like that. So when John kicked the ball, so the ball went from one place to another. So the action of kicking affected or impacted the ball, resulting in the position change of the ball. Change of position, okay. But in the other sentence, John gave the ball to Johnny. Johnny was not affected. Johnny might have been happy because John gave him the ball, but that's it. He was not affected, he was not displaced, his position didn't change, but the balls did, because John had the ball and then he gave the ball to Johnny. So the position of the ball changed. So the simple definition of direct and indirect object is that direct objects receive the impact of the action done by the verb directly, and indirect objects do not. So usually, yes, the direct object receives the action of the verb. And say suppose I say Ram slapped Shyam. So it's not always an object will be a direct object. It could be a person as well, because if Ram slaps Sham, then Sham will get hurt. So whoever, whatever receives the action of the verb is the direct object. Okay, I wish to stop here today, and you can breathe a sigh of relief. And if you have other classes, you might get a minute or two of relief to go into the other classes. However, if you have any questions, you can ask them by unmuting, or you can put your questions in the chat box, or we can have a more direct contact, but you and me both need to take the permission of the. Okay, sir, can you please repeat the question that will come from here in the exam? Yeah, so also I was informed that the kind of pattern you have of questions is 10 and 20 marks. So the basic and flat questions would be define syntax and along with its scope, or what is syntax and its scope, 10 marks or 20 marks. So for 10 marks you can like remove the part of the figures of speech, nouns, phrases and clauses, and for the 20 mark you have to write all of that. Okay, and I will also discuss the questions that can come from the second part, like what is the basic structure of grammar, and I will be telling you about all these 30 to 34, 37 structures later, one by one, or you can find it in your book as well. Any other questions? Yeah, as I was saying, I need to take the permission of the concerned authorities before I can contact you, or you can contact me over WhatsApp as well, where you can clear your doubts, because after this class, when you will look at your notes, if you have taken any, then you will find a lot of gaps because you will be forgetting a few things, and we can talk about that in the next class, or if you ask for ma'am's permission to contact me, I'm very much available on WhatsApp, and you can like send me your queries. Okay, so with that I would leave the meeting if you are okay with that. So let's call it a day, and we can meet next week. I think it will be like next Monday, because I would be taking your classes on Monday actually, not on Saturdays, because there was some problem with my schedule on this Monday, so I preponed the classes to Saturday.